All right. Good evening, folks. How art thou? Give me one moment as I share this across social media. I'll try to make this under 2 minutes. So if you guys are coming in late, you can uh, you can scroll past this or skip past this. Give me 1 second, and I'll let you know in the video when we are done. 1 second here. Shared once. Now I'll share this to a group. That's another one. I tried to get this to be a little bit early. Share to another group. Yang Tai Chi. And then one more. Share to another group. No, I just shared this to a page. Give me one moment. For those who have just gotten in here, I'm just about to finish sharing this. Now we'll go to here. One more second, please. I'm almost finished sharing these. Cool. Almost finished. Then I'll go right here. Okay. Wish I could find a better process to do this. Unfortunately, this is still quite new to me. Still quite new to me. Okay, almost done. Okay, I'm trying to think, is there any more that I shared this with? Let me see. Did that. Okay, all right. Looks like I am finished sharing across all the pages and groups and the comments that I got. Okay, so welcome to the House of Kung Fu's first video of the series of how I learned how to use Shaolin and a Hakanese Kung Fu art called Southern Mantis in actual combat through solo training. Okay. Um, I know that sounds kind of iffy. You know, how can a person learn how to unlock a secret? Uh, Not all the way by myself because I had people teaching me, uh, but the majority of finding myself within this style um, was done by myself. Okay. So before we get into all the nuances and little details, I'm going to share with you a little bit of what we're going to do tonight. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you some examples of me using it in combat for anybody that's new to my channel who haven't seen it. And through those clips, now those are clips, they're not the full, they're not the full video, right? I let them go at a time, a little bit at a time. But from those clips, I'm going to break down how I learned it, right? And this is great because I really didn't get a chance to tell any of the people that were teaching me um, how I came to those conclusions, right? A lot of those guys just kind of give you the next thing, right? Because they've already been there and done that, right? So not too much was explained, but I'll explain to you guys, right? Hopefully it'll trickle back down to them somehow, some way, right? Okay. So first, let's go to one of my clips, shall we? Now, I've been on this path for a while now, and at first it was kind of hard, right? I kind of remember it being a transition because if you guys don't know, I come from like the taekwondo and the karate and the kickboxing and the boxing and the wrestling. A lot of the main Western arts that you see here in America, and you know the biggest transition for me was the mind, the mindset that you have to have in order to use kung fu in a real time situation. Um, and I would say the biggest transition for me was, as far as the mentality goes, was how can I put this into words? I never really got a chance to really break down and explain this. But the mentality for boxing or a lot of the mainstream striking arts is not necessarily points, right? But there's a certain rhythm to it, right? You go dun 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 dun, right? It's a clear rhythm and it's a tempo, right? But with kung fu, it's almost like, okay, imagine Dragon Ball Z, right? You know how those guys fight, right? They go right. It's kind of like that in a sense where it just keeps going. There's this fluidity to it that you know requires a different mentality, and to be in that flow state, right? uh Confidently, right? And that was the biggest transition for me because I'm not gonna lie, there's always a flow state in any type of combat or sport, right? But as far as kung fu is concerned, the reason it's so different as far as the flow state is concerned is because one technique can be used for several different things, right? So it's not about gathering a bunch of techniques, right, in the Kung Fu world. Uh, it's about having or starting out with a few, right, and exploring it. It's almost like a those eggs that they have. They got the big one and inside's a little one, and it goes little and little, right? It's kind of like that with a technique per se. And when you when you find yourself and you find a technique that really works for you, your body type, right? Your mentality, um, the doors really start to open up, right? And when you find that technique that really speaks to you and really calls to you, not only do you explore it, right? But the most important thing is yourself, believe it or not. And I think this is where a lot of disconnect starts to happen with certain schools and certain teachers is that, of course, the style has to be passed on. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that people get so lost and so fixated on the style, they tend to forget themselves, right? And before any type of physical training, I believe personally, from my experience, that it's important to understand your temperament, understand how you like to move, understand what it is best for you in certain situations. Like for me, I figured out I'm a counter striker. I'm a counter fighter. I became a counter wrestler, counter boxer, right? Um, because I like to play it safe. That's my personality. I'll take chances, I'll take risks when I have to, but for the majority of the time, I know I like to keep it safe, right? So I like the techniques that don't leave me so exposed. And if they do, I have a great and quick counter to it, right? And when you begin to understand yourself and find yourself, right? And try to understand your temperament, understand what's safe for you. Do I like to be inside? Do I feel safe on the outside? Do I feel very confident exchanging blows, right? When that first step is you, and that first step is understanding your temperament, the foundation is really laid, right? And so everything else can kind of filter and trickle into that. You find your strengths and your weaknesses. Like for me, I'm a counter striker because my personality is I like to keep it safe with a little bit of risk, right? So the first step is finding you. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. I'll explain how I did that. But first, we're going to watch a little clip. We're going to go way back into the archive of the House of Kung Fu, one of my first videos I released. And I'll start sharing some stories from there. All right. So let's do it. I haven't watched this video in a long time, yo. All right. Let me see. Where are we at? Right here. Okay. Real Shaolin fighting skills. How long ago was this? It was about 2 years ago. Okay. Pt.1. Oh yeah. Oh, Northern Shaolin, baby. Pt.1 was my favorite. And it still is my favorite. I'll show you a little skills that I have of it before I start the video, just to, wipe off the dust and so I can get into that essence again because I have not practiced Northern Shaolin in a minute. So, right? So with Northern Shaolin, right, especially the Tong Bay, right? A lot of people say Northern Mantis originated from the Tong Bay, right? And I'm going to show you why, right? My favorite technique was golden palms, throws the sands, right? And it goes like this, and then you open up, right? You back up a little bit, right here, 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 and then you come here, here, and so forth, right? And so forth, okay? And so I really like this because this technique, golden palm throw sands, is a lot of different things, and it's got a good entry as a parry, right? And you can still move stuff out of the way. You can check, right? Right here, right? And then you can pull into it. So just these two alone, because I learned I was a counter fighter, right? This felt real safe to me, right? And it seemed very practical to use, right? So I kind of fell in love with it. So one of the things that I did was when I was studying Northern Shaolin is that I would take parts of a form and I would do them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Okay. You guys don't understand. Okay. You guys are saying, oh, right. Oh, well, you're supposed to do it hundreds and hundreds of times, right? But the thing is that when you're doing that, what is your mentality when you're practicing a move, part of a form? Are you just practicing it for the sake of practicing and memorizing the technique? Or are you doing it with some sort of application, right? Now, I know that sounds simple, and you probably heard it all before, but it really is that simple, okay? But you kind of have to have a little bit of experience of understanding the fight rhythm and how it starts and all of that. But you can easily just start imagining it. And science has shown that your mind really can't tell the difference when you have a good, strong imagination. Can't really tell the difference between, if you're imagining something or if it's really happening. Right? That's where the meditation and the visualization becomes to play a really big part, right? So let's look into a little bit of this video and then we'll go from there. Let me change this screen again. Okay. All right. Oh yeah. This goes way back. And I did a little performance there. There it is again. I had just got my first laptop and I was going in. Cool intro. That's from a TV show that I did in my city around Akron. It's blue green. Go check it out. And this is the performance we did right before COVID. We have a couple of my students. This is my best student that I've had. Dimitri, he learned very, very quickly by using the same principles that I did, and he was able to use it, believe it or not. Okay. Qigong students, more of my Qigong people, my kids, more of my kids. I've been putting in work. Another one of my students, and just people who are fans of Kung Fu. My students, new people, student, right? So, Here we go. Let's see. Oh yeah, I start off with the form. Let's see what you got. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I was doing that iron vest. My fists were flying. Woo! Look at that. I need to straighten that back though. Ooh. Ooh. Look at that. All in that small space. Whoa. Just trying not to go too hard to knock the stuff in the back. Oh yeah. So you won't be able to hear me, but I'll just try to paraphrase a little bit about what I'm saying.
What are the proper applications of forms and techniques? Well, so many years, so many YouTube videos, you see so many, what's the right word for it? Outlandish, too mystical, hard to understand applications. Now, the
I don't know if you guys can really hear me about this, but let me get to the juicy part.
on those four styles of Shaolin.
So let's see.
That's what makes Kungfu. Gong training isn't the forms,
Okay.
something different.
All right. So now we have gotten to the first part of the major thing that was a different type of training for me, and that is gong training, right? Gong, gong training, right? Now, a lot of the times when you go to a lot of martial arts schools, you practice forms and drills and two-man drills and all that. Like, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay. But what I am saying is that gong training is different. Okay. Because when you're training gong, you're not training a technique per se. Okay. You're training an attribute, right? Because the techniques are nothing without attributes. If you don't have the attributes to pull off the kung fu move, it's not going to work in a real situation, right? So, for example, with the tongbe, right? I Here, let me bring this down just a little bit so you guys can really see me. With the tongbe, if I wanted to move a punch out of the way and hit, I can't just do it because I know the technique, right? You got to, first of all, the first move is this, okay? So this tells me that not only do I need to train my stance because it starts from right here, right? But there's a closing and an opening and a closing, right? With the stance. You guys can't really see my feet here, but look, okay, I'm not standing still doing this, right? It's not just like that. It's a transition between stances in order to make that work. So this goes into the first thing that I did, right, when I started to learn uh, uh, Kung Fu, right, which is, hold on, let me switch this. Let me switch the tab real quick so we can have something in the background. Is this the right one? Yeah, it is. Okay. So I'll turn this down while I talk. Okay. So the first thing that I learned, right, and had to use in order for me to use kung fu is stances. Okay. Now, a lot of people tend to neglect stance training, and I'm here to tell you that if you don't fortify your stance and feel the connection between your lower and upper root, none of the kung fu is going to work. Okay, it's not like, yeah, I mean, there are stances in boxing and kickboxing and taekwondo and karate, right? But those are floaty techniques. You understand what I'm trying to say? Floaty techniques, like, because I can pull off a jab right here, just like that, right? But you can also do a jab when you don't have a root. You can float with it, you can stick with it, all types of stuff, right? And so, yeah, stances, you do have a boxing stance, right? But with kung fu, there is no kung fu technique without a stance. Period. It's not like boxing and kickboxing where you can kind of float with it. You know, every kung fu move has a stance. Okay. So the first thing that I did was for a whole year, and I kid you not, for a whole year, I did nothing but stances until I could hold it for 1 hour. I practiced no hand techniques. I practiced no kicking techniques. I practiced no weapons. I did nothing but qigong, stretching, and stance work. And I'm going to tell you why I chose to do those three things before I learned any techniques. The first one is the qigong, okay? The central nervous system is the engine of any type of movement, right? If you can't feel the space between your bones, if you cannot feel the kinetic flow that goes up from your leg all the way through your body, right? If you don't know how to relax while moving, if you don't know how to release and relax your joints and release tension and have some inner peace, there's no way you're going to be able to use any type of combat, let alone kung fu. Okay. Now, the second reason why I did qigong first, right, is because kung fu moves are kind of like qigong in a sense, right? They're very circular, you know, full range of motion, sometimes short, but still full range of motion, even though it's short, right? It got a chance for you to feel what it's like to have that essence of moving your body in a circular fashion, of using your whole body for every movement to open up your body. All right. Why I did stretching, this is number two. I went from Qigong to stretching. Why I did stretching is because flexibility when it comes to Kung Fu training is paramount. You have to be flexible in order for you to transition, okay? Because when you're using a system that incorporates the whole body per movement, you better be flexible, okay? So, in the last reason, or the last thing I did was stances, and I'm going to explain again how important stances are for Kung Fu training. Every single, oh, why did this cut out in the background? I have to go back. I don't know why it cut out. But every single kung fu move is in a stance. Every single one. So if you don't have that root, right, to be able to transition, you don't hold these stances when you're fighting. Some of these are transition are not meant to be hold, right? You got to be flexible enough, stretching, right, to be able to switch through these different stances without injury and with grace and flexibility. Okay? And you got to be able to relax while you do it. If you're having all this bundled up tension that you haven't released through the medical qigong, if your joints are stiff, if you're not feeling you're at home in your body, there's no way you're going to be able to shift between stances in a high concentrated atmosphere. So you should do the stretching. And lastly, if you don't have a root in your stances and feel stable, you're rooted to the earth, someone's just gonna bulldoze you over. So qigong, stretching, and stance work were my foundation before any type of forms or drills or any of that. Okay, that allowed me to learn how to stay relaxed. That will learn me taught me how to be flexible, right, and switching in between stances and moving. Okay, and then that enabled me to have a root and be strong and be fearless. Stance work taught me to it helped me gain the fighting spirit. Okay, so those three things were my foundation, and I did nothing but stretching, qigong, and stance work for a year before any kung fu techniques. Okay, so now that we have that established, we'll go to the next video. Okay, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe because we're gonna go into it a little bit today, just for part one. All right, and we're not gonna go super deep into it, right? Because we got to do more series. Okay. All right, now we're gonna move on to our next video, our first real-time Shaolin fight. Okay, and there's some stories behind this for sure. Okay, so without further ado, let's get this gravy train rolling. I haven't watched this in a while. This was a how long ago was this? This is about a couple years ago. Yeah, two years ago. Still only at 480. We should have thousands of views on this by now, but what are you gonna do? All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, this is one of my students, and he helped me learn this stuff or gave me a good body. Okay, so again, once I did qigong, once I did my stretching, and once I did my stances for a year, 1 year, okay, and I learned some forms. And one of the thing this came to be. We'll get into what that one other little thing is in 1 second. Let's go. Number one, my stance. Okay, I know I'm sounding redundant, but check my stance. Okay, now your stance, in order to not only use any type of combat, but especially Kung Fu, your stance is the most important because virtually there is no stance. but there is a stance, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Now, excuse me if I'm talking in riddles here. That's the way Kung Fu world is. Okay. Bear with me. All right. There is a stance, but there is not a stance. I'm going to tell you why. The first reason there is a stance, I'm going to speak to the first part where you can understand the most. Okay. The reason there is a stance is because of this. Okay. Now, obviously, before you get into a real situation, you got to know, the techniques you practice and all that. Okay. All techniques come from a stance, come from a preparation. There is no bullet without pulling the trigger. There is no trigger without the mechanism to set it in place. Okay? It's the same thing with your stance. Okay? You're cocking back the bullet when you are in a stance. Okay? Now, I chose this Northern Shaolin stance, and we'll get into the Southern Mantis and stuff in a little bit. But my root is in Northern Shaolin, and as some grandmasters have told me that Southern Mantis is really nothing but Northern Shaolin in a phone booth, right? So my foundation to learn Southern Mantis was really strong because I did a lot of Shaolin work, okay? But anyway, the reason why I chose this stance, okay, is for a few different things. Okay. Number one, I know, again, back to knowing yourself, you got to know what your temperament is, what you're comfortable in. Okay. You got to know, are you a striker? Are you a counter puncher? Okay. Are you a grappler? Are you more of a defensive person? Are you a tactician? Learning yourself is the most important thing before any technique. And I know me, I'm a counter fighter, mostly. Okay, that was my innate attribute. I countered and was defensive very naturally. So I like to set traps. Okay, I'm very intelligent and cerebral. So this is a trap, believe it or not. Kind of like in Southern Mantis when they go like this. Okay, this is my trap. Kind of like how Floyd Mayweather has the Philly shell. Right here is open. That's a trap. I want this open because I saw that Northern Shaolin had a shrinking, right, motion, an expanding motion. Okay, they love the shrinking body, right? I saw this, right, in a lot of moves, the compressing and the expanding, right, the compressing and expanding. So I'm like, wait, why don't I find a stance that enables me to compress quickly into a lot of various different Shaolin moves? For example, a basic punch. This, right? There's a punch coming. You can block it, trap it, and strike. They can also use as a submission. You trap the arm and bring it over, right? Kind of like a kimura or whatever, right? This right here, I can easily trap into the oblique punch. I can easily trap into the single whip, right? I can easily shift between. And since I'm in a hollow stance, right? I have really good flexibility and mobility, right? And also, right? I no, I already said shrinking body and all that. Okay, so so because I practice my stances, because I know myself, I was able to come up with this on my own. Okay, so let's go back. That's why stances are so important. So here's me. This is my stance. I'm going to show you how flexible a stance and how important it could really be. This is me getting worked out. Now watch how I use my stance to set up my attacks. Okay, I use it to close off. Watch how my stance is connected to everything I do. I told you, for 1 year I did nothing but stances, stretching and qigong. Watch how the fruits start to bear. Now, look at that stance, buddy. I wasn't used to having stuff flying at my face just yet, so my structure was a little off. But I didn't want to kill my friend, right? So in this clip, I wanted to demonstrate only two techniques for a reason, and not a lot of people caught that. Okay. The first technique I wanted to utilize, right, was the hollow stance, right? Into bring this up. Hollow stance, right? Transitioning into golden palm through stance from the Tong Bay. Okay. I wanted to only do that. I wanted to show the world that Kung Fu isn't a bunch of techniques and forms. It's the basics that make good Kung Fu. I wanted to use my Kung Fu against a bigger, stronger person and only using two techniques from one form. That's this stance to golden palm throw stance. Okay. Watch how I use that. Watch how flexible Kung Fu move can be. Now, what I did to do this is very simple. It's very, very simple. Now, you see this right here, the beginning. Good thing I punched right there, or that would have hit me in the face. This was still brand new, mind you, 2 years ago. Boom. Now, you see, he held his hand like, what the heck? I'm going to tell you how that came to be. And it's very simple. I'm going to rewind it back a little bit as I talk, right? So, the first thing that I did when I figured out I really liked golden palm throw sands is you do it 100 times. I did this move 100 times, about five, five, uh, 5 sets. All right. So I'd have, some music playing and all this, and I would just go around, right? I had a little space, and I would just do it. I didn't do it hard, right? At first, I didn't do it fast, right? I did it with an intention, right? When you move with intention, you don't have to go off fast and no. Take your time. Feel each movement. Feel from when you drop to open. Feel what it's like to, oh, it's there. Okay, now it's not there. Okay, it's right here, but oh, it went over here. So I gotta adjust. Right? I had an opponent in my head that was fast sometimes. He would be over here and I would just open up. I had a stronger opponent that would just come forward. So I would use his aggressiveness and pull him away and hit him. Okay. I did it against multiple opponents, right? I did it in between. Say if this didn't work, all of a sudden I gotta go back to my stance, right? I thought of every single scenario that would happen from one technique. And then from there, I saw, oh, wait, I don't have to just move somebody out of the way. I can hit their arm. As you've seen in this clip right here. Look, watch how I come back, move away for a second, checking to see if I'm still in the camera angle. Now watch. And this came, I think I hit him my elbow on his wrist. Boom. So that served as a good distraction. It made him step back just enough. That hand away from my face just enough to bring it back. You see he's holding his hand, right? So by doing a technique hundreds of times in a free space, imagining different scenarios, if a person is moving, if a person is punching and then retreating, if a person is double punching, if a person's trying to bum rush you, all this stuff. And, if a person is trying to grab you right after that, you gotta have a strong stance, right? And you can see how my root is always under me. I'm always in my stance, as you can see in the video, just in case. Every single possible scenario that I could think of, I practiced within a singular movement. That's why there's a famous samurai who says, from one thing, understand to 10,000 things. And it's the same thing with this Northern Shaolin movement. Okay, because I did the medical qigong. I was open. My joints and my tendons and my ligaments were open enough. They were open enough for me to be able to practice a movement slowly and feel where it sunk, where it rised, because I did the stretching to become more flexible. I was able to not make it so on a straight line, because a person's not going to stand there. I can go from right here to back to my stance, right? I can start to go from right here and then turn it all the way around here, right? With transitioning stances. Because I practiced my stances, I was able to be fluid and have balance in any type of predicament. Okay. And because I practiced this move hundreds of times to the point where I didn't have to think about it, I didn't fall. And here's the thing for the Kung Fu people: stop practicing a whole form just as together. If you want to learn how to do combat, stick with one move for like a month. One move. One move. There's no rush because it's never going to end, right? So take one move and really dissect it. Get bored with it and then keep pushing. Because when you get bored, when it becomes monotonous and not fun anymore, right? And not all mystical, when you practice and move for about 30 minutes, you just look up and you see like a bird flying and there's nobody around you, that's when you need to press more, okay? Because there's something beyond that door, okay? And because I practiced this one move and I harnessed it, I found different ways to use it. Like for right there, it can stop an attacker because I have my balance under me. Okay, so let's go through what else and see what else I could figure out. Now I want you guys see, look how it becomes flexible right there. Still caught him. And I still have my balance under me. Okay. Now, like I said before, the stances are the most important part in Kung Fu training because that's you cocking your gun back. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you why the stances are not important. Just real quick, because I don't have this video isn't for that, but I just want to balance out my thoughts why stances are not important, and they are important. Okay. The reason why they're not important because in a real life situation, okay, you're not going to be in the stance. A person's going to try to catch you off guard. Okay. And if you have to help somebody, you see somebody's heckling like a woman, heckling your woman, heckling a child or something like that, or heckling a weak person that you know that's wrong. You can't just come up all bold and make yourself a big target. Okay, you gotta approach the situation nice and calm, sir. Can I? It's okay. Hey, just you dead the situation, and if they have a weapon, that's how you should approach it. No stance, no aggressiveness. Okay, then all of a sudden, bam, I got you. Okay, a stance is a telegraph in real life. This is sparring. Okay, so you need to be able to go from total being normal to your move in an instant. Okay, that's a whole different other training, whatever. But I want to go back to why stances are so important. Not only did I practice a movement, an actual fighting movement, hundreds of times, I also practiced my stance and my transitioning of my stance the same amount, if not harder, than my striking techniques. And I'm going to tell you why in this little clip that just went past. Okay. Now, as I've shown you, this is my stance, right? I'm in a hollow stance, got about no weight on my front leg, and I just transition, right? I just transition. I'm going to show you how in this fighting clip, I only used those two moves, the transition stance and the golden palm throw stance. Okay. Now watch. Not only can I use it to switch and knock stuff down, but it's a good cover. Now that wasn't all the way perfect, but I want you to watch again. Here I am in my stance. You see me going like this. It's a timing. I used it to time him, to get his beat. But I also am throwing him off open, close. But not just that. I know that Northern Shaolin loves the streaking body. Okay, the compression. Okay, so I'm mini compressing while timing him, while throwing him off, while covering me, all at the same time. All from going like this. I told you guys, Family Samurai said, from one thing, understand 10,000 things. Each Kung Fu movement is not just a singular thing. You guys got to get out of that mind frame like this is the only application. It's not true. It's not true. Because the Kung Fu was designed for a streamlined learning process. Not separate things like, oh, okay, this is grappling, okay, this is striking, okay, this is weapons. It's a circle, man. You always find yourself going back to the beginning. Okay. So one move is the beginning and the end. because because you're using the whole body, because you're using full range of motion. When you're using the whole body, one thing can be a strike, defense, or grappling. Watch the clip. See how I time him? Oh, I hit him with a good strike. Okay, that was right before then, huh? Hold on. Oh yeah. Boom, right there. And it also shows good flexibility because in the form it's just like this. Just like this. But who says I can't go right turn the body into you? Right? Hurts. Watch how I use the stance. I use it to step back and look. Come here. And notice my face is open. Cover. Constantly throwing him off. Immediately that space is gone. And I can use the same opening to cover my face. Now this is my first time, so I'm still getting used to it. This is one of my first times. Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. Still in a strong base. Controlling it. I was a little sloppy, okay? This was a couple years ago, all right? But still. Now I want you to notice a difference. We collided at the same time. Now I want you guys to pay attention to why this happens to him and it doesn't happen to me. Watch his body. Why does he go back and I rush forward? Watch again. We collided at the same time. What is the difference? Even though my head was out of the way, remember I told you stance or structure and no stance or no structure. My structure is all off. How did I transfer enough power? And he's bigger than me. He's stronger than me. What was the difference? We landed in the same spot. Even though he pushed me back, how did he say, whoa? Watch one more time. Watch my legs. Watch his legs before he attacks. I'm in a lifting horse, believe it or not. Now watch him. His leg is here and there's there. Okay, there's no root. It's off balance. Now, no root. Watch my legs. Now, watch how my stance and my legs contributes to my punch. Watch one more time. I'm in a horse stance. He's in no stance. Because I'm prepped in a stance before my attack, the gun is already cocked and loaded. Okay. Watch. Remember, golden palm throws stance. From a horse stance to a bow stance or to a nail stance. Watch. Because his movement starts from a floating position, and mine has started from a slunk but still light, stable position, the power is different and transfers different because, again, stances. Watch. I'm turning on something stable. He's not. It's floaty. Mine's is in a stance. So when it collides, and I'm turning on a stable structure, And I'm not just turning using my hand. See how he floats in? I'm punching in to a stance. Punching in to a stance, not into a strike. I'm not punching into a strike. I'm punching into a stance. Have my root. He has no root. Yes. So again, stances are the most important part of your Kungfu. Okay? Without a good stance, you're not mobile, you're not flexible, and you cannot transfer the weight of the power. Okay? Now, this is an elementary concept. Watch how I use my stance right here. Watch. I use that to knock him off. Oh, this is beautiful. I forgot I did this. Watch this. Oh, there's something else before that. My preparatory stance and the shifting. Watch how I use it not only to cover distance, but to shield me. Bam. He's throwing into a grinder. Look at my stance. Moving in that stance like a tiger. Look at that. Fake. Watch how I use my stance to throw off his balance and structure. I attack with my stance. Watch it. Into a stance. Boom. That hurt. That hurt. That's beautiful. Watch that one more time. Stances. Flexibility. Qigong. Stances. Qigong to make yourself relaxed and agile. Stretching to make you flexible, make your mind flexible, to be able to shift back and forth if something is not there and to fake them out. Stances for lots of other wonderful things. Just like that. Always in a stance, always flexible, in a stance. Light, but stable. Yowza. Once you get full into your stance, that happens. Okay? So again, for the record, Qigong, stretching, stances are the most important foundation. Next, take one move, just one move. Do it hundreds of times. Do it in all different circumstances. Do it that one move. Find that one move. Find yourself in it. Understand yourself. Understand yourself to the point where you know, am I a counter person? Am I a striker? Am I aggressive? Am I laid back? Am I a tactician? Am I afraid? Am I not afraid? Figure out these things. And then within your forms, find a movement that closely mirrors who you are. Okay? And do that hundreds of times in different circumstances. That's what I did. I didn't learn that movement with him. I learned that in my own imagination, my own through trial and error, boring stuff. It can all happen for sure. All right? This is half of part one. All right. I'm gonna do a little form for you guys, just so you know, just dust off the old doing the Shaolin stuff. Dust. See if I can do it. Woo. Trying not to hit my green screen. Okay. Okay, a little intermission. We'll get into the Haka Mantis just for a little bit. Yes, this is live. Almost done. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're back. Is that 5 minutes? Close to 5 minutes. Okay. All right. So we've already established a foundation. Okay. How understanding yourself is the most important thing. Understanding who you are, understanding your temperament. Okay. Once you understand what type of person you are, you can find the best technique for you. That's why Kung Fu is a spiritual thing, not just a physical thing to use, right? Use it to understand yourself. All right. Open up your body through the Qigong. Right. Stretch. Practice your stances. Okay. Take one move that mirrors who you are, your temperament, and do it hundreds of times. Visualize it under all circumstances, over and over again. Take one technique for 1 month and do that in all different scenarios. And I promise you, you'll start to get it. Then you get a partner. Okay. Now, part 2 will deal with how to use your partner. Okay. Once you have those attributes of understanding yourself, you're stretched out, you're fluid and relaxed, you have a root, and you have your techniques. Okay. 5 things. Then you start to add a person or materials. Okay. And I'm going to show you with this bag alone on the next time. I'm going to show you how this bag can skyrocket your Kung Fu skill. Watch the title and we'll watch the background. Practice the principle. Then the muscles act accordingly. Clear your mind, trust the technique. Flexibility of the intention with the fearlessness and appropriate intention. Allow you to do wonderful things. Okay. Ami tofo, ami tofo, ami tofo. Make sure you like and subscribe. Master Lee from the House of Kung Fu is out for part 1 of how I learned to use Southern Madness and Shaolin in combat through solo training part 1.